What do you do when Curtis Cocky Warren starts buying your girlfriend champagne? It was 2007. I was in Exeter prison, and I was sharing a cell with one of the Scousers. I was in with a little Scouse gang at that time, and I was sharing a cell with them. And he had a mobile phone, so I was just talking to some of my family on the phone, and I passed the phone back over to my pal, and he was talking to his girlfriend, who was out at the time. It was a Saturday night, and she was out on the town in some bar in Liverpool. And suddenly she becomes distracted, and she's not paying attention to what he's saying. And when she comes back on the phone again, she says that Curtis Warren is in the bar, and she's called. I mean, he's called the sort of gang of girls over, and he's buying them all bottles of champagne to celebrate with him. And she just kind of says, "Oh, she's got to go. Love you." Hangs up and bye. And yeah, and she's gone. And my cellmate's distraught now. He's sat in the bar, and he knows full well. Everyone can see. We've just seen it on the news and everything. Curtis Warren's just come out of jail. He's got 87 million from his criminal activities to spend, and he's out partying with your girlfriend. And you already know she likes hanging around criminals because she's with you. And yeah, he had to sit in there and bite his nails down to the nub that night, just to kind of fucking thinking what might be happening now. Just reading from the Liverpool Echo. If you don't know who Curtis Warren is, he's one of the UK's most notorious criminals. Curtis Warren is serving a jail sentence for attempting to smuggle cannabis into Jersey. He was sentenced to 13 years for the £1 million conspiracy, although Interpol's former most wanted has always maintained that he is the victim of a miscarriage of justice. The 56-year-old has since been handed an extra 10 years after failing to pay back the £198 million fortune investigators believe he may have from a global drug dealing ring. So anybody who doesn't know who Curtis Warren is, I'm just going to have a little read through the Liverpool Echo now. It's a really captivating story. It's really, they've done a great job. I'll put a link in the description for anyone who wants to read it themselves. Apologies, I read like a 5-year-old. Yeah, if you if it sounds horrible, then I do apologise. So Curtis Warren killed. Is this the beginning? Yeah. Curtis Warren killed a feared prisoner, had sex with an officer, and ran an international drugs operation, all while behind bars. When the 12-year-old from Granbury appeared before Liverpool Juvenile Court in the 1970s, few people in the room would have predicted the accused would one day enter criminal folklore. Warren, who appeared before the court after stealing a car, graduated to more serious crime, including armed robbery, and soon became a well-known face hanging around International Cafe on Granbury Street. After a brief tenure as a Liverpool doorman, Warren fell under a sway of powerful Liverpool criminals and entered the highly lucrative but lethal arena of international drug smuggling. In January 1993, Warren was a defendant in a complex drugs trial at Newcastle Crown Court alongside his close associate Brian Charrington. But the trial famously collapsed and Warren walked away. Although Warren disputes it, he was reported to have ventured back into the court and approached the customs officer and said, "I'm off to spend my 87 million from the first shipment and you can't fucking touch me." In the middle of the 1990s, there was a major fallout between two rival South London Liverpool fractions. The fatal shooting of a businessman sparked a gang war which resulted in scores of shooting across the city. Warren was said to have become involved in the fallout, though his friendship with a man called Johnny Phillips, through his contact called Johnny Phillips. Mr. Phillips, who survived an attempt on his life, later died of a heart attack. Unlucky. Warren was naturally concerned by the ferocity of the gang war and the later increased activity in the south end of the city. It's thought that the South Liverpool gang war encouraged Warren to relocate to Holland. Warren, now in his late 30s, actually moved to the sleepy village of Sassenhelm, deep in the Dutch countryside. The crook and his colleagues moved to a farmhouse called Baccarat and assumed they had evaded the security of police. Meanwhile, officials in the UK and Holland joined forces to smash Warren's drugs business. An elite unit later stormed the farmhouse where they seized MDMA, 1,000 kilos of cannabis, guns, 3 hand grenades, and 940 canisters of CS gas. That's that gas that the police use to fucking fuck you up. 940 canisters of it. It's not fucking around. Warren was convicted of trying to mastermind a £125 million drug shipment from the Netherlands to the UK and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Warren later moved to the formidable Neo-Vosselveld maximum security jail, where it emerged he later became involved in a violent attack. The Turkish prisoner Kemal Glukku, who had a reputation as a troublemaker, is said to have screamed abuse at Warren. He then began to throw punches, but Warren pushed him away. But then, when he came back at Warren, the Liverpool man is said to have kicked him in the head. Glukku, a convicted killer, later died of his injuries. Warren, who claimed to have acted in self-defence, was jailed for a further 4 years. So what was that? He had 12 years, and then he's got 4 years added on top of that. So 16 years now on top of that. After a 3-week trial, a jury found Warren and his associates guilty. The Liverpool man was then flown off the island and sent straight to Belmarsh, one of the UK's most secure prisons. Hold on, we've missed a bit there, haven't we? Yeah, we did, sorry. He was jailed for a further 4 years. In the summer of 2007, Warren was released from custody in Holland and put on a ferry back to Liverpool. But within weeks, Holland flew out to Jersey, where he became implicated in a £1 million cannabis plot. Yeah, so that was when he came out then, in that summer of 2007. So he must have been out partying, and that's when he was troubling my mate's missus. After a 3-week trial, a jury found Warren and his associates guilty. The Liverpool man was then flown off the island and sent to HMP Belmarsh, one of the UK's most secure prisons. When it came to finding out his fate, Warren chose not to return to Jersey and instead watched the events unfold via video link. As Richard Tucker handed him a 13-year sentence, Warren simply closed the book he had been reading for most of the proceedings and then walked out with the prison guards behind him. In 2011, the Echo reported to authorities In 2013, the Echo reported that authorities accidentally moved one of Warren's sworn enemies into the same prison with him. John Hass from Everton was moved to Long Lartin despite the presence of Warren. Now, I think John Hass, I've read his book. I think he's the criminal that kind of, used to move heroin into Liverpool, and he got caught, but they didn't catch both of the shipments. He still had one of the shipments of heroin. So what he did is he used that shipment to buy a load of guns, and then pretended to be a sort of an IRA informant. So he would tell the British police where all these piles of guns were, pretending that they were IRA guns, trying to negotiate himself a bit of a lighter sentence. I think that's him. I'm not 100% sure if it's not. It's somebody else. But that's a great story anyway as well. Hass, serving a sentence for an unprecedented plot to pervert the course of justice, was a sworn enemy of Warren. Yes, that might be him. One underworld source said somebody obviously didn't do their homework. Who puts those two anywhere near each other with their history? It's madness. There wasn't any trouble, but only because they split them up quickly again. Once the authorities realised the potential for trouble in Long Lartin, it was understood Warren was moved to Full Sutton, a 600-capacity prison with a reputation for holding some of the country's most violent and dangerous offenders. In 2013, still behind bars, Warren faced another threat to his liberty after prosecutors claimed he was in control of a £198 million drugs empire. In an astonishing 38-page opening to a 3-week trial, prosecutors claimed Warren was truly prolific. He can source cocaine from South America, heroin from Turkey and Iran, and cannabis from Morocco. His markets are diverse and include Liverpool, Brazil, Moscow, Swaziland, and Australia. Warren boasted, while behind bars in Holland, of laundering of laundering 15 million in cash each week, obtained from worldwide drug trafficking. Dutch financial investigators in 1996 estimated Warren made a drugs profit of 12 million in a 3-month period, but those figures failed to take into account multi-million-pound heroin and cannabis jobs or cocaine trafficking. And the same investigators did not consider alleged overseas trade, including deals to sell 3,000 bath interiors to Moscow and railways to South Africa. Mr. Sharp said, "We are not suggesting for any moment that Warren's gang were selling bathroom suites." Warren, who claimed to be penniless, was ordered by the court to serve another 10 years in prison after he refused to pay the order. Would you do another 10 years for 198 million? I think I might. Bearing in mind you'd only do 5 years out of that 10 years. In 2014, former prison counsellor Teresa Rodriguez told a Sunday newspaper that she fell in love with Cocky while he was working as a senior manager. Well, she must have been working as a senior manager at Liverpool prison in Jersey while running the drug and alcohol counselling unit. The former prisoner worker left her job at Liverpool I think that's how you say it, I'm probably saying it wrong, Liverpool in 2011 to return to Lisbon. But Anthony Barraclough, Warren's barrister, said that the claims were without foundation. He said, "Curtis is extremely annoyed. It's nonsense. There's no truth in him having an affair with her. It has upset the family and his girlfriend. Curtis is very concerned that this may have a detrimental effect on his appeal and the confiscation order. He hasn't been in touch with her for many years. They were friends because of his work in the prison to help with the anti-drugs campaign. And yes, he did help prisoners to read and write. He has helped stop sell drugs in all prisons he's been in. So far as having sex or whatever, Curtis said that the security in Lemoy was much stricter than Belmarsh, and he was regarded very high risk. To say a non-prison officer should go into a cell and spend the afternoon there without someone checking on them was nonsense. It's later emerged that Warren had an affair with prison officer Stephanie Smithwaite, 40, during his stay at Frankland near Durham. Miss Smithwaite pleaded guilty to 2 counts of misconduct in a public office at Durham Crown Court during a brief hearing on Friday. I don't know which Friday that was. Judge Jonathan Carroll said, "You have pleaded guilty to these 2 serious offences. You can understand how I am certain how serious they are. The overwhelming likelihood is that this will be followed up by an immediate custodial sentence. Your background should be fully investigated before I pass another sentence. You should understand that the purpose is to assist me with the length rather than the type of the disposal." Blah, blah, blah. Smithwaite will be sentenced on 7th of February. She is reported to have lost her job within the prison service. I imagine she has. Okay, so that was the end of the story then. So, yeah, he's basically still in prison. Big time drug dealer. Lots of money. At his disposal. Now that's the kind of, Howard Marks was the hippie who ended up selling drugs. Now Curtis Warren is the thug criminal who starts selling drugs. That's the 2 types of people you get in this world. Now, obviously, they probably made a similar amount of money. Howard Marks didn't want to touch the heroin and everything like that, and he only ships drugs into the UK and America. It wasn't shipping them all around the world like Curtis was. But 2 similar guys, 2 very different backgrounds, 2 similar ways into drugs, and it just becomes the money just becomes too tempting for everyone. And even then, when Curtis is in prison, his kind of personality, similar to Howard Marks, his personality has led him to probably having affairs with multiple members of staff as well. So this does happen in prison, and I'll do an episode about that at some point. But so Yeah, Cocky Curtis Warren. If you ever get the chance, have a look at his books. There's plenty online about him as well. But he used to do a great thing. So he was so well informed about the UK Customs Border Force, about how long their drill bit was, that they used to be able to drill into things to look for drugs. He knew, for example, say it was like 15 inches, this drill bit that they had. So he would hide his drugs 16 inches inside a concrete block, and there'd be kilos of cocaine inside these concrete blocks that he would bring in, and he was, like I say, he was so well informed about the security processes and searching processes of the border force, that he could get around that, and obviously made a lot of money doing so. So yeah, Cocky Curtis Warren, another one of my favourite villains.